I am the self-help hacker. Here's the video title, which you probably saw, obviously. Happily ever after, ... Then what? Happily ever after, then what? Of course, we obviously know those fairy tale books we were read as kids. Part of us knew that there's no such thing as happily ever after. That doesn't actually exist. What really exists, ultimately, I'd say, is a combination of Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid, that ultimately when our basic physical needs are met, then we start aspiring more to wanting goals of love and acceptance, etc. And then it becomes things like our own definitions of success financially and an idea of who we are. And the more we get up to the top, then it's a matter of basically self-actualization, which is largely where I'm at and where I'm trying to help people become, to realize a lot of the things we worry about and focus on aren't even real problems. They're perceived problems that you can just unplug, like worrying about what other people think, because ultimately you control your emotions, not them. And how people are so self-centered, they're so focused on their own insecurities and their own goals and wants and needs. So it's just cater to that. Like everyone else is obsessed with themselves, so just focus on them instead, help them sort their stuff out, and then they like you more anyway, and that solves the problem. To me, it's just such a simple formula. But as it says on my note here, happily ever after, then what? So what's interesting is when you're younger, which is who this series is geared toward, people under the age of 35. It's funny because when you're in high school, well, I guess we can do this with every grade. You know, when you're in junior high, oh, I can't wait to drive a car and, you know, be in high school. And, oh, I can't wait to graduate and go to college. And, oh, I can't wait to get out and, you know, figure out my career and get married and, okay, have a family. Okay, well, I can't wait when I can, you know, make more money and move into a bigger house. And you have all these goals. But ultimately, in reality, it's not like you finally reached that and then, okay, I'm at happily ever after. Now, if anybody's at happily ever after status, it's actually me. Not saying this to brag, I'm just saying because I think it needs to be said that even when you reach all these goals, it doesn't mean you're just happily ever after. That does not exist. In case I need to explain, definitely at the risk of sounding like I'm bragging, and if that's how you accept it, I accept that that's how you accept it. But in reality, I'm giving you a glimpse of your own future, knowing that you're much younger than me. So imagine this. I went to college, I got the degree. I got into a career that I didn't know existed. I was in that for like a solid 10 years, 11 years, 12 years. Then I get picked up by a much bigger company with better benefits and insurance. My salary nearly doubles. This is not less than 2 years ago. This is a true story. This all happened. Then we can afford to move into a better neighborhood, a bigger house. Now with a garage, we're not parking in the street in a townhouse. Oh, we have a backyard. Oh, we're in a good school system for the kids. Oh, this is all. So all of this happens. And once it finally started happening, it happened pretty quickly. Now maybe I've just told you the typical story of the average American pushing 40. Maybe I've just shared that. Ultimately for millennials and you know, people who are up to 15 years younger than me, whatever it is. Maybe that's completely stock predictable stuff that I'm sharing with you, but it is my life. And it's funny, so I have everything. So I've been married for, you know, well over a decade now. I have 2 kids. I have a great house in a great neighborhood, one of the best school systems that there is in the state. The car that I've always wanted, I have. And financially, it's not about, like, we paid off all of our debts years ago. Then we started just putting money in the bank, and now we're just investing the money. So you would think of all people, and I'm not a millionaire, and I still work a full-time job, which I feel very fulfilled in. But it's a matter of, I came to my own sort of private, almost millionaire status, to where, again, I'm not a millionaire, but ultimately, I work a full-time job. I've got my side gig, these videos and some other things. And financially, things are fine. And because we're low overhead, we could easily live 2 neighborhoods over where the houses are a third larger and a third larger of the price. We can afford to live over there, but instead we're more focused on investing in our future. Financially, investing. So in theory, I'm in a really good situation financially, and I'm very well aware that I've been given many opportunities. I'm very grateful for that. Worked super hard to get there. But ultimately, does that mean I'm happily ever after? I have everything, right? I mean, I have the life that a lot of people would want. I have the life that I would have wanted when I was younger, and I do have. I aspired for something, and I now have it. But does that mean I'm happily ever after? Will that be the story of my life? Nick Shell, by age 38, had pretty much everything he wanted, other than, I guess, be retired and just hang out for the rest of my life. But that wouldn't work either. I couldn't just, if I suddenly had millions of dollars, I would say, well, I've got the rest of my life. Now how do I help other people? What do I do with myself? It's not all about me. There's no such thing as happily ever after. I've got a song that I'm working on that at some point in the future I'll be releasing on the channel, and it's called Shotgun, but it has a line in there saying happily ever after, talking about how it's anticlimactic. When you finally get here, all your problems are not resolved. You just have different, more complex problems that you didn't have before that you have to figure out as you get older, and as everyone changes all around you, and as life changes and culture changes and all these things. And that goes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid, that ultimately, even when you reach your goals, that doesn't make you happy. I personally went through an existential crisis last year. It took me a whole year, 2019, to sort out. So now what do I do with the rest of my life? What are my new goals in life? I was really confused. It was really weird. It was like beating a game, and like, okay, now what do? I did everything I'm supposed to do, and it's like, so I just live the rest of my life now and kind of go through the motions. And so, I mean, it was a matter of, now I can focus more on friendship relationships that I didn't have time for. I've joined the gym now, and I'm so happy about it. I love working out. I'm working more on my music and writing songs and putting them on the channel. And ultimately, I've created this new series. Instead of doing all those videos I was doing before, which I never cared about, they were really addressing other people's superficial needs, and they weren't even needs. Now I'm helping people with fundamental psychological issues just based on things that I've learned. But it's funny because I think that part of accepting how life actually works, and one of the life lessons that you tend not to know before the age of 35 without somebody like me telling you, which is what I'm telling you, happily ever after doesn't exist. Because even for me, I've got everything. Well, when you have everything, guess what? What if you lose some of the things that you have? All the people that you love. I have a lot to lose. I've got people who care about me and that I love. So the more you have in life, and I'm not talking about financial things at this point or material things. I'm talking like people. Even when you have good people in your life, it's like you learn to make that time matter even more, because none of us know how much longer we've got left on this earth. I won't always be here. You won't always be here. In fact, that's some of the lyrics to another upcoming song that I've got called These Are the Good Old Days. So you'll be probably hearing that in the near future. But it's caused me to reevaluate my life. So happily ever after doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. It's not like you suddenly just are on autopilot for the rest of your life and like, okay, I'm good. Everything's great. And it's funny because people do win the lottery, and it's usually a train wreck of a story. Like usually it never ends up with them being happy or keeping the money and that sort of thing. And obviously money does not ultimately solve the problem. Having control of it is definitely a great thing, but as far as just getting a bunch of money, that wouldn't solve the problem. Being super famous, there's plenty of people that have both, super rich, super famous, and they still aren't happy. They're still dealing with anxiety and depression and all these things. So it's a matter of managing your own life. And as I say, sorting your stuff out, mental floss. Is there any unresolved trauma in my life that I have not dealt with? Is there anybody I haven't forgiven? Do I know who I am, or am I still basing my who I think I am based off of social media or my own confidence crutches, those things that I perceive as the reason people don't like me, which is not actually the thing. It's more that you're not connecting with people by talking to them about themselves and helping them sort out their own life. That's what gives us credibility as human beings. So, happily ever after, not a real thing. Accepting that even when you reach all your goals, you're still always going to have new missions, new goals that you've got to reach. And for me, last year, I had to figure out what those were. That in itself was its own challenge. Your comments belong right here.